Hello and welcome to this PIR live event webinar brought to you by Partners in Research Canada. My name is Stacey Joyce and I will be your host. Remember that you can ask questions by using the webinar chat function, and you can find that near the top left of your screen there. And please include your name, your school, and your city so we can give you a shout out when you have a question. Today's guest is Kelly Hodgins. She's a master's graduate and the program manager for Feeding 9 Billion at the University of Guelph. Thanks so much for joining us, Kelly. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Stacey. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Hodgins, and I love to talk about food and food security and specifically food waste. So that's what my topic today is going to be about, and I'm hoping that you'll have lots of questions about maybe food waste at home or in your schools, and so we'll get a chance to chat about that a little bit. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of a presentation for you to start, and then after that we'll have a bit more of a chance to chat. Okay. So let me just gear this up here. Okay, so if you can all see that, we're going to be talking about food waste today. So all right, so this is what food looks like at the end of its life. This is we make a lot of food in the world, and actually, unfortunately, a lot of it ends up in the dump or the landfill. In fact, 1/3 of all of the food that we produce in the world, the entire globe, gets wasted. It doesn't even get eaten. And this is a really, really big problem. We have a lot of hungry people in the world, but yet we're throwing away food that could have been eaten. So I want to show you a little bit about how food waste happens. All right. So first we'll take a look. We'll start at the farm. Of all the food wasted in Canada, about 10% happens at the farm. So all kinds of different farms. Here you can see we've got some grain, we've got bananas, we've got some chickens, lots of different types of farms. But let's look specifically at carrots. Sometimes food doesn't look right, and so that's a big reason why we see a lot of food get wasted. If it doesn't look right or it goes bad, then we can't sell it and we can't eat it. So the farmer tries really hard to make food look beautiful and get it to your stores or to your grocery store and to your plate, but sometimes it just isn't perfect. And no one will buy it from the farmer if it doesn't look perfect. So looking at these carrots, for instance, you can tell they look a little bit funny. In the grocery store, carrots need to be perfectly straight, but if they're twisted like this, they aren't allowed. But this is a natural way for carrots to grow. So all of the ones that grow like this normally will get wasted. Let's look again maybe at the example of apples. So this is when you're in the grocery store, you expect apples to look like this. They're nice and fancy and nice and shiny. They look perfect. However, as apples grow on a tree, sometimes hard rain will come or hail and branches will hit them and they'll get scars or bumps, and these will get rejected. So these are some with some hail that hit them. These have been bumped by branches. They just grow a little bit funny and they look funny, but they still taste fine. But unfortunately, they don't look like the grocery store shiny ones, so they have to get wasted. This is my friend Tristan not in Canada, because we don't grow bananas in Canada, but he's on a banana farm, and this is just from one day. This is all of the bananas that got wasted from one day on the farm. And it looks like there's nothing wrong with them, but these bananas didn't make the cut because they're curved a certain way. They're maybe too straight or too curved, and they don't meet the requirements, so they're not even allowed to get shipped up to come to our grocery stores. So they all get wasted. This is just one day. So from the farms then, with the food that does look good enough, we send it along and it goes to processing. So here it gets cleaned up and put into packages. So if we're thinking about, if we think back to those carrots that we talked about a few minutes ago, here they are in a packing house. So in the packing house, carrots get passed through photographic sensor machines that search for defects in them. So carrots that aren't bright orange, or maybe they had a bend or a blemish or a bruise on them, they are all swept away. Also, if they get broken or cracked. And about half of the carrots that are rejected are because they're not perfect. So this whole system will help divide those ones out. So then after processing, it goes into trucks or onto airplanes or onto ships and travels to your city. Oh, sorry, I went too far. There we go. Sometimes food is transported in trucks that are big refrigerators. So this helps keeps the food fresh and cold as it's moving from city to city. So unfortunately, sometimes they get delayed in traffic or they break down or things like this, and then we also see food get spoiled and it goes bad and then you can't eat it then. So then, after it goes along in its truck, it'll get dropped off at maybe a restaurant for use there. And this is where we see actually a lot of waste happen. And there's a lot of different reasons why food waste happens at restaurants. So there might be you who orders a lot of food but then can't finish it all. Then there's food that's accidentally made, maybe a wrong order, and it has to get tossed away. And there's also the challenge for restaurant owners to know exactly how much food to order, because they have to order it in advance and try to predict how much food will be eaten. But if they buy too much and people don't come in to buy it, then it becomes waste. The worst food waste actually happens at buffet restaurants or fast food restaurants, because food is made that people don't eat. For example, when you go to McDonald's, the fries there, as one example, get thrown out if they aren't eaten within 7 minutes. And then finally, the food keeps moving along the chain, and some of it goes in gets taken from those trucks to your grocery store. And this is where you and your family will go to go buy it. So, like we saw with the picture of the apples earlier, people who run grocery stores know that we are most attracted to good-looking displays and full shelves. However, when they fill the shelves really full, then fresh foods like fruit and vegetables and meat and milk, they'll go bad faster because they're out in sort of warmer temperatures, so they'll ripen faster, they'll go bad quicker. So once food gets close to going bad, then the store can't sell it, and then again it gets tossed out into the garbage. So this is a photo of my friend Grant showing a bunch of hummus that got wasted behind a grocery store in Vancouver. This is just one example of the kinds of waste. So this had a best before date on it to let the store owner know, or the shopper know, when it's safe to be eaten. And because these got close to their best before date before anybody bought them, they all had to go in the garbage. So coming back from the grocery store, you get back into the car and you take the food home. At home, we waste a lot of food for many different reasons. And I'm sure you can think of some reasons yourself, but maybe you can help me in the question period after this. We can talk about that. So some examples that I thought of are we simply forget about food, or we buy too much, or it gets lost in the back of the fridge. Sometimes that happens. Or sometimes we get picky and we decide we don't want to eat leftovers of meals. And we also toss out food quite early when we're afraid that we'll get sick from it. Essentially, we're pretty picky, and so we waste a lot of food in our homes. So what a shame that after all of this time, that food that's made it all the way from the farm earlier in this that we saw earlier in the slideshow has to get wasted, and it goes into the bin after it's made this long journey to your house. So let's think twice about food before we just chuck it out. Because what's important is to think about, where does food go after we throw it out? And like I showed you before, that picture of the landfill, that's a really big problem. Unfortunately, only a really small amount of food waste gets composted or fed to animals. The rest goes to a dump. And in fact, in a given landfill or dump, nearly half of all the garbage in there comes from food alone. Food that has been unnecessarily wasted. And then while it sits there, it rots and releases bad gases that are really bad for our Earth and contribute to climate change. So how can we reduce the amount of food that we throw out? Well, like we said, in our house, we waste a lot of food. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about some strategies that you can use to try to reduce food waste in your own home. So this image shows us that the average Canadian home wastes 4.5 kilograms of food every week. What's 4.5 kilograms? That's like the size of a large cat or a small dog. So that's a lot of waste just from our homes alone. So we need to try to reduce that, I think. You guys can all play a part. So here's some tips. So bananas, here's a cool tip that my friend taught me. He said, you can slow down the ripening process of bananas by putting a little bit of plastic wrap around the stem. So this actually slows them down. So if you find that your bananas get brown too fast and then you don't want to eat them anymore, you just put a little plastic around the top, just a little piece, and that'll just slow them down, and then you can enjoy them for longer at the ripeness that you like them. With apples, this is a really cool one that you can remember. Apples actually are really bad neighbors to other fruits and vegetables. They release a gas called ethylene gas, which is normal, it's natural, and it speeds up fruit ripening. So it makes the apples ripen themselves. Unfortunately, when you put them in a fruit bowl beside your bananas and your oranges or whatever else, they make really bad neighbors because they make the other things ripen, and they ripen too quickly, and then they go rotten. So remember, your apples are bad neighbors to other fruits. Another fun thing is that you can actually freeze milk. Did you know that? Sometimes we don't drink milk fast enough and it goes sour. Nobody wants sour milk, but say you're going away on holiday or you just bought too much milk, you can actually put it in the freezer. And then you could just take it out and it's back to normal again. You can just use it in a smoothie or just drink it, whatever you want to do. So I just want to remind you that most of the food waste that we waste at home is avoidable. And sure, we have things like eggshells or banana peels that we can call food waste, and we can't do anything about that. You don't want to eat eggshells or banana peels. Those are unavoidable. But let's take a second look at some other foods. Is everything that we throw out completely unavoidable? I don't think so. So think about this in your own home. What do you consider inedible? What would you call not good for eating? Would you say carrot or apple or potato peels are inedible, or do you think that those are still worth eating? I think that they're good for eating, and in fact, quite good for you. Carrot tops, ends of bread. Is there any reason why we would throw these out? What about leftovers? I think these are common foods that we throw out, but really we don't need to. And maybe you can think twice about that next time you go to check them out. So I just encourage you to think about food waste in your life and decide how to save some food from the landfill with every meal that you eat. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, stop the presentation and take some questions from you guys. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much. We just need to hit stop share near the top of your screen. Perfect. Now we can see you a little bit better. And I have several questions already for you.
Wow. I saw the chat box buzzing.
All right, so let's start it with Harmony in Ingersoll. She wants to know, why are the carrots twisted when they come out of the ground?
Oh, that's an awesome question, Harmony. So it's just the way that they grow, just the way that we all grow in different shapes and sizes as humans. Carrots also grow in different shapes and sizes. And so, so I grow carrots at home, just in my own garden, not on a big farm. But they'll grow different twisty ways depending on the soil that they're in, the dirt that they're in. If they encounter other carrots around them, then they might have to move a little bit, and they'll twist and they'll kind of form around each other. So just different conditions. So and how hard the soil is. So it's quite normal. It's absolutely normal. In fact, it's more common almost to see twisty carrots than perfectly straight carrots. However, in the grocery store, we only want to see straight ones. So all those ones that naturally grow twisty have to go to waste or go to animal feed.
So as a follow-up to that one, I've heard of recent movements in selling, quote, ugly foods in different stores. Is that a movement that's catching on? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's a great movement, and I think that there's I think it's really exciting to kind of get celebrating and excited about ugly fruits and vegetables, and I think that's what's really important about these movements. These campaigns are drawing attention to the fact that ugly fruits and vegetables are perfectly edible, completely, just like I said, the twisty carrots, they just grow like that. They're normal. They're healthy. They're just as nutritious. They're just as safe for you as any other fruit or vegetable, but they just don't look perfect. So the fact that we are throwing them out is just not logical. So it's a great movement, and the different projects that are working on eating ugly fruits and vegetables are really fantastic. And I think that, and you can actually have a lot of fun with them. There's actually a Twitter account that just shows photos and photos. People post different photos to this Twitter account of their funny-looking fruits and vegetables. And I should have showed you some, but there's like little peaches that look like they're kissing, or tomatoes that have two parts to them, and they all look like little ones that look like birds, and it's kind of fun. You can have a lot of fun with the ugly fruits and vegetables.
I think I have to do some searching on social media now for some ugly vegetables. Well, I want to keep going with these questions because they're still coming in. In the grade 5 class at St. Elizabeth Seton, Diego wants to know, how fast does food rot?
Hi, Diego. Good question. That's a complicated question because it depends. So food rots depending on temperature, right? So and that ethylene gas that I was talking about with the apples. So if you keep food cool, it'll actually ripen and rot slower. So that's why you want to keep your fruits and vegetables in the fridge. If you put them out at room temperature, they're going to ripen faster. So and then obviously, and then rot faster too. So if you want them to rot, or if you want them to stay good for longer, keep them in the fridge, and don't put them near apples, and you'll be able to enjoy your food for longer before it has to get thrown out.
Great. And from the same class, so grade 5s at St. Elizabeth Seton, Karam wants to know, why don't they give the food to animals instead of throwing it out? I think with the farms throwing out their fruits and vegetables that don't meet the cut.
Good, yeah, absolutely. And they are. I should say there are a lot of farmers who are feeding fruits and vegetables, like the ugly ones, to animals. And a lot of it gets harvested and turned into food products for animals. But we still consider it, we still want to see, because this food was originally grown for humans to eat, and then because of all of these reasons, it's not. And so that's a waste of energy and resources. So we want to see it first go to people, and then second to animals. But even still, the animals can't eat it all because we're producing a lot of food waste. And also, animals have specific diets, so we can't just have, a big harvest of carrots and just feed it all to the cows, because cows need a more balanced diet than that, or the pigs, for instance, and they need to have a more consistent, regular diet. So we can definitely feed some food waste to them, but it's not the solution for all of the food waste that we have.
Okay, great. So I have another sort of comment and question here from Ms. McGee Jennings' class.
Great.
She wanted to touch on how you mentioned some food is really waste and is inedible, so maybe something we can't really reduce. They want the other schools to know that they have a worm bin in their classroom. And maybe we can touch on things like that people can do for the waste that you know, inevitably there will be some food waste. What can they do to make sure that doesn't go to a landfill if possible?
Perfect. Oh, I'm so excited that you have a worm bin. That is great. That's very cool. So yes, exactly. So the food waste that we do consider inedible, that is, you know, you have to waste it, that those things should be composted. So you don't want to feed eggshells or banana peels or orange peels even to animals. Animals don't even want that, but they can still be composted, because composting, or feeding them to worms, because worms also are a form of composting, that the end result of that is dirt and soil, and that's good for the earth, and we can put that back into the earth. But when food waste goes into the garbage can, then it goes to the landfill, and that's really, really bad, because in a landfills are actually designed to not allow food to break down normally, so it doesn't actually compost in a landfill. It doesn't turn into soil. It just rots really badly and releases two really bad gases called methane and carbon dioxide, and these go into the atmosphere and they contribute to climate change. So don't put food, even if it's eggshells or banana peels or orange peels or coffee grounds or whatever, don't put it into the garbage can, because that's how it gets to the landfill. Put it somewhere where it will get composted.
Great. And that just answered another question we had from Zacharia in Mrs. Zorzeto's class. She wanted to know what happens to the food after we throw it in the garbage. So now you know why you should be putting it in the green bin or the compost whenever you can.
That's right.
What else do I have here? I have Sienna in Mrs. Zorzeto's class in Hamilton, Ontario. She wants to know if the compost turns into something you can use again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, compost. So when you put food waste into your compost bin, maybe you have a green bin or one of those big black composters in your backyard, or a worm bin, that ultimately, over time, it breaks down healthily and organically into soil, so dirt. And that's the proper cycle. That's what food waste should do, is it should turn back into dirt, because then we put that dirt back on the land and we grow more food. And that's great. And that's what we want to see. The problem is when it goes into the dump, because then it doesn't turn into dirt. It turns into bad, nasty gases.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the students at Sir Ernest Macmillan Public School in Toronto want to know, why can't the food that is going to be wasted, things that are still edible, why can they not go to those who need it elsewhere in the world, or even in the same community? In the same community.
Yes, and I should say there is a lot of work being done by a lot of great organizations and charities, food banks, and soup kitchens that do collect edible food waste. They can't do it all, though. They're small and they're run by volunteers, and they don't have a lot of money and resources to go, and it takes a lot of time to go to a store and maybe pick up leftover produce or leftover cheese and milk and yogurt and bring that back and then prepare it, and remember that this food is close to its expiry date too. So then you only have a really short amount of time to feed it, to give it to people before it is unsafe. So yeah, there is definitely some really, really important efforts and some really great work done by charities to rescue, I guess, some of that food and provide it to people who are hungry, but it's not solving the problem of food waste. And also, it's not really solving hunger in a meaningful way, because people are still facing food insecurity. They're still going hungry. And so solving it with food waste is just sort of a short-term solution. Yeah.
Great. Noah at Earl Beatty Public School wants to know, how much food waste does Canada create compared to other countries?
Canada's food waste is, I can't compare against all the countries in the world, but we're pretty high. And most of it, it's interesting. So I can't tell you compared to all other countries, but I can tell you the way that food waste happens in Canada is different to some countries. So in Canada, we actually have a lot of food waste happen at the consumer end. So when I was telling you before about going from farm to factory to transportation to restaurant to grocery store to home, different countries waste food at different points there, but Canada wastes the most amount of food at home. So we are really, really bad in our own homes, and we can really try to fix that. Other countries, most of their food waste maybe happens at the farm side of things. So countries where a lot of food goes bad in the field, or they have poor weather conditions, then a lot of food will go bad there. But in Canada, the most food waste happens actually in our own homes, which is something that we, all of us, and all of you guys need to work on to bring that number down.
Okay. What else do I have? Here's so many questions. This is great.
And I'm excited about how many people are talking about worm bins. Everyone has worm bins in their classrooms. This is great.
Well, we've got Ms. Riley's class. They're grade 5 and 6s at Denlow Public School in Toronto, and they would like to know which food items are most popular to waste.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, like I said before, like I was asking you guys about the ends of your bread, because a lot of people waste bread that way. And not only at home, but also bakeries, like bakeries and restaurants, a lot of bread waste occurs in Canada. So that's a really, really big one. But I don't know, I would turn that back to you guys. Like what are the foods that you see yourselves wasting a lot? So we do know that fresh foods like fruits, berries, and herbs, fruits and vegetables particularly are really bad. We're really bad at wasting a lot of fruit and vegetables. So we have to be more careful about maybe not buying so much, storing it a little bit more carefully, and really being aware of how much we have and eating our fruits and vegetables. But yeah, so I think you guys should ask yourself, or maybe be a little bit more aware in your own classrooms of what are the things that you're wasting and which things you can improve on.
Great. So we are almost out of time. I want to squeeze in one or two more questions. Thinking in a more national sense, what can we do to prevent food waste from happening at a country level? We've got students in Burnaby, BC that would like to know.
Hello, Burnaby, BC. Oh man, what can we do at the country level? So there's so many. Like I explained to you, there's a lot of problems with food waste along the whole route from farm all the way to home. And so because there's so many problems along the way, there's so many different opportunities for solutions too. So there's lots of different things that we can do. But I wanted to focus more on what you guys can do at home, because I think that's the easiest for you to create change, and also because we know that that's where we're wasting the most amount of food. So if we're putting our energies most into decreasing the food waste that we create at home, then we're making the most amount of change. And I think that's what you guys can do best. We can all help reduce Canada's level of waste by being more conscious at home and at school.
Well, that's a good point. If most of our waste is at home, we may not need a national policy to create a change on a national scale.
That's right.
Excellent. So in that vein, is there one change that if a student or a person in the community was going to make one change at home to make the most difference, what would you suggest they try to tackle first?
Oh, so many things. Eat all your food. Don't be so picky. I think a lot of our food waste happens because we are picky about what we consider food or food waste, and I really want you to think about what is inedible or not. So is if your carrot's a little twisty, is it still okay to eat? Is it if your yogurt is the day before its best before date, it's still totally safe. Is it the end of the bread that you just don't really feel like? If you toasted it and put some peanut butter on it, is it still okay? I think it's still okay to eat. So things like that. So just really think about the reasons when you go to throw something out. Think about that for a second and say, maybe this is okay to eat. And just do a second thought. And don't ever put food into the garbage, like black garbage can. Put it in the compost if you are throwing it out.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have. We're already a couple minutes over. Thank you very much, Kelly, for joining us and for answering our questions.
I like to talk about it. Thanks, everyone. It's been fun.
Great. Next week on PIR Live event, we're talking more about the global implications of food waste, and Kelly Hodgins will join us again for that session. More information on this and other PIR Live events is available at pirweb.org. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.